Hello everyone, I'm Justin, and this is a full recap of Aquaman, released in 2018. If you end up enjoying this video and want to see more from us, then make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to know anytime we upload a new video. On December 22nd, the 17th and final project of DC's extended universe, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, will be releasing in theaters, marking an unfortunately abrupt end for the franchise after just 10 years. So, ahead of the new film's release, today we'll be taking a look back at DC's highest grossing film of all time, 2018's Aquaman, which managed to make an incredible $1.1 billion worldwide at the box office on a budget of just $160 million, placing it in the top 30 highest grossing films ever. Despite this film's financial success though, the next 8 DCEU theatrical releases would get nowhere close to making this kind of money, with said films totaling for $1.8 billion, just 40% more than what Aquaman made on its own. And it doesn't appear that the next Aquaman film will go on to do much better than anything else they've recently released, since the franchise will soon be rebooted into the DCEU and see a brand new cast portraying DC's main heroes. Still, it's nice to look back at what went well on DC's first attempt at an interconnected cinematic universe. So let's move ahead with what took place in the franchise's greatest financial success. The movie opens in the midst of a thunderstorm in 1985 Maine, where we see lighthouse keeper Tom Curry as he notices a wounded woman passed out on the shore. So he takes her back to his home, patches her up, and brings her food, making her feel comfortable enough to reveal her identity as Atlanta, Queen of Atlantis, an underwater kingdom heavily isolated from the surface. And she's revealed to have fled to the surface to avoid her arranged marriage to King Orvax. As time passes, she and Tom actually fall in love and eventually have a son named Arthur, who Atlanta believes could one day be the one to unite their two worlds. A few years after Arthur's birth, though, their home is suddenly attacked by Atlantean soldiers sent by Orvax to retrieve Atlanta. And although she manages to successfully take out this group of soldiers, she believes they'll just continue coming after her. So, in order to keep her family safe, she returns to Atlantis, but assures Tom that she'll return to him one day when it's safe. We then jump to the present day as a group of pirates, led by Jesse Kane and his son David, are hijacking a Russian nuclear submarine, during which Jesse gifts David a special knife, explaining that it had belonged to his father, who'd fought in World War II as one of the Navy's first frogmen, and was codenamed Manta for his stealthiness. But when he returned home, his country had forgotten about him, and so he became a pirate in order to support himself, using this knife as his signature weapon, before passing it down to Jesse, who now passes it down to David. Shortly following this, the group is then interrupted by a now adult Arthur Curry, as he rams himself into the sub and lifts it above water, before then entering and swiftly subduing the pirates to free the Russians still trapped inside. But while doing that, he's attacked by Jesse and David, both of whom he ultimately makes quick work of before attempting to leave the ship, although that's once again interrupted when Jesse shoots a rocket at him, which Arthur manages to dodge, resulting in it instead making contact with the sub and leaving a hole that causes the ship to begin flooding. The force of the water also subsequently causes a torpedo to crush Jesse's legs, leaving him trapped with David unable to help him, so the latter begs Arthur to help free his father, but Arthur decides against it since they just killed innocent people and exits, before David's then forced to leave his father after Jesse arms himself with a grenade, while urging his son to leave quickly so he can survive to one day kill Aquaman. And so he does as the grenade goes off and Jesse is killed. Sometime later, the current King of Atlantis and second son of Queen Atlanta, King Orm, meets with King Nereus of the Zebel Kingdom, and the two discuss the possibility of engaging in a war against the surface world, as Orm believes they're becoming too big of a threat and could destroy their home. But Nereus reminds Orm that by law, he'll need 4 of the 7 kingdoms to join together in order to ascend and attack, and believes that, with the Lost Nation and Deserter Kingdoms having long perished, and the Trench being nothing but animals, they will be unable to do so, as the other 2 remaining kingdoms, the Brine and the Fishermen, would never join Atlantis. Nereus is also suspicious of Orm's real motives, believing that he just wants to become Ocean Master, thereby becoming the commander of the greatest military might on the planet. But although that could be true, it appears Orm's fear of the surface world may be justified as well, as they're suddenly attacked by a Russian nuclear submarine that Orm manages to make quick work of, destroying the sub with his Trident that had been passed down to him by his father. And this attack proves to be enough to convince Nereus to join forces with Atlantis. Later that night, back on the surface, Arthur's met by the fiancée of King Orm and daughter of King Nereus, Mera. who asks for his help in stopping the war between her people and the surface, as to prevent the deaths of billions from both of their worlds, explaining that, with him being the firstborn son of Queen Atlanna, the throne is his by birthright. And so, if he can find the lost Trident of Atlan, a weapon with the power to command the sea, then the people will listen to him and he could dethrone Orm. Arthur, though at first refusing to help or ever be king of Atlantis, does soon change his mind following a huge water attack from Orm and his army that nearly drowns his father, but is ultimately stopped by Mera using her powers of water manipulation to shield them and remove the water from Tom's lungs. So, with Arthur now joining Mera in this fight, she next sneaks him into Atlantis, where they meet with the chief counselor to the throne of Atlantis, Nuidus Volko, who we learn had promised Queen Atlanna prior to her death to always protect Arthur. And so he trained and mentored him throughout his youth, teaching him how to swim, communicate, and fight as an Atlantean, before eventually being the one to reveal what had happened to his mother, explaining that she was sacrificed to the trench by King Orvax after he found out about her family on the surface. Now, in the present, Volko gives Arthur an ancient recording that he believes contains Atlan's final message to his people and the location of the sacred Trident, before explaining that, long ago, when all kingdoms were one, King Atlan led an experiment that caused Atlantis to be swallowed by the ocean. But this turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as they then gained the ability to breathe underwater and were able to build a new kingdom within it. King Atlan, though, would choose to live out the remainder of his days in self-imposed exile for his actions, with neither him nor the Trident ever being seen again. So, in order to find it, Volko tells Arthur he has to take the recording to the Deserter Kingdom to retrieve the message. But before he can, they're suddenly attacked by Atlantean soldiers, and although Volko and Mera are able to escape unseen with the cylinder, Arthur is arrested for illegal entry and brought before King Orm, who Arthur promptly challenges for the throne in a combat of the kings, and Orm accepts, under the agreement that if he wins, the war will go on as planned. So they battle in front of all of Atlantis, and although Arthur does his best to defeat his half-brother, he proves to be no match, as Orm eventually slices Arthur's trident in half and prepares to kill him. But just before he does, Mera pushes Orm back with a blast of water, and helps Arthur escape back to the surface. After a relatively short journey on land, the two eventually make it to the remains of the Deserter Kingdom beneath the Sahara Desert, where they find the Hall of Armory where Atlan's trident was forged, and there they're able to play the recording, in which Atlan had given clues as to where they could find his trident, saying to journey beyond the edge of the world to the hidden sea, and look inside the bottle for the charted path, which can only be seen in the hands of the true king. So they then destroy the recording and take the map out of the bottle presented to them, which points them to Sicily, Italy, where they eventually look into the bottle through the eyes of a King Romulus statue, and are able to see the charted path to the Trident, revealed to lead to the Kingdom of the Trench. But immediately following this, they're again suddenly attacked by Atlantean soldiers, this time along with David Kane, now going by the Black Manta. As earlier, it was revealed that King Orm had worked with David to fake the submarine attack, and following the betrayal of Mera and her escape with Arthur, Orm met with Kane again to gift him prototype Atlantean armor so that he could kill them, since Orm himself was forced not to kill his fiancée by Nereus. But again, Black Manta is defeated by Arthur and knocked off of a cliff to his presumed death, while Mera takes out the Atlantean soldiers. Meanwhile, Orm and Nereus head to the Fisherman Kingdom and ask their king, King Riku, to join them. But Riku refuses and claims that, when it comes time to make themselves known to the landsmen, it should be to educate, not destroy them. And in response, Orm calls him and his people cowards and provokes him into attacking them. And when he does, Orm and Nereus kill him and his men, leaving his wife, Queen Rena, and their daughter, Princess Scales, with no choice but to join them. Soon after this, Orm confronts Volko and reveals that he's known about his loyalty to Arthur, but questions why Volko would do this, claiming he's devoted his life to Atlantis. And Volko responds saying that, even though Arthur is half Atlantean, he's already twice the king Orm will ever be, prompting Orm to have him arrested and sent away. Meanwhile, Arthur and Mera continue their travel to the trench, but Arthur feels that they'd be better off if they just went back home, believing that their plan will fail because he isn't worthy to be king. But Mera encourages him to continue their journey, as she also believes he could be the bridge between the land and the sea. So they eventually make their way past the creatures of the trench and into the hidden sea, and there they're shocked to find Atlanna, who'd miraculously managed to survive there for 20 years, and she immediately shares an embrace with her son. She then reveals that the reason why she's never gone back home is because the portal that brought them there doesn't allow them to return. So their only way back is for Arthur to retrieve Atlan's trident, but to do that, he must get past the Carathan. a giant sea creature with immense power that has guarded the Trident against even the greatest champions for 1,000 years. Once confronted by the Carathan, though, Arthur's ability to communicate with it shocks the creature, as it hasn't communicated with a mortal since King Atlan, and Arthur explains that, although he doesn't believe he's worthy, he must retrieve the Trident, as it's its only hope to save his home and the people he loves. So the Carathan allows him to make an attempt at freeing the Trident from Atlan's hands, claiming he can only do so if he really is worthy. And fortunately, he's proven so, retrieving the Trident and gaining the power to command the sea, including the Carathan and the Trench. So he, Mera, Atlanta, and his army of the sea intercept the Atlantean, Zebul, and fisherman armies while they attempt to force the Brine Kingdom to join them, resulting in a huge battle during which Mera finds her father, and upon revealing that Arthur wields the Trident, Nereus, the fisherman, and his army stand down. Arthur, meanwhile, brings Orm to the surface, and they have a very close back-and-forth battle. But eventually, Arthur is able to overpower Orm and snap his trident. Orm, having clearly lost, begs his half-brother to kill him, as mercy is not the Atlantean way. But Arthur decides not to, before Atlanta joins them, and, after embracing Orm, explains to him that the land and the sea are one, so no more blood needs to be shed. Before Orm's then arrested by Vulko and imprisoned on Atlantis, while its people hail their new king. Soon after, Atlanta meets with Tom for the first time in 20 years, and the two share a long-awaited embrace before the movie ends with a narration from Arthur, who proclaims he is the son of the land, king of the seas, and protector of the deep, the Aquaman. In a mid-credits scene, we see a still-alive Black Manta being found in the sea by a marine biologist obsessed with Aquaman in Atlantis, Dr. Stephen Shin, who patches up Manta's wounds and asks him how he got his Atlantean armor. But before Manta answers, he demands to know where to find Aquaman. And that was our recap of Aquaman. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, let us know in the comments below where you'd rank Aquaman amongst the other films in the DCEU. Make sure to also check out our DC playlist for more content like this. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.